Where's Flick? Where is Flick? Does anybody know where Flick is? Watch this.
Where's Flick? Has anyone seen Flick?
Flick? Flick who?
He was at recess, wasn't he? Ralphie, do you know where Flick is? I said, has anyone seen Flick? Yes, Esther Jane. Oh my God!
That is such a well-known scene. What a great scene in the movie. Where's Flick? Where's Flick? I mean, Miss Shields has a legitimate question. Where is Flick? I want to know where Flick is. He should be in this classroom right now. You all came back from recess, and he's not here. She feels perhaps some responsibility. Well, she does have responsibility. It's one of her quote-unquote kids. And so she's trying to figure out, where is Flick? Now, I want to talk with you a little bit about this whole scene in a way that's going to boggle your mind. He used that boggle word again that Shepard likes so much, and he uses when the old man is unboxing from the crate the leg lamp. His eyes are boggled. He's boggled by it. So this scene is played out in a way that's metaphorically biblical. Okay, let me explain that. So Gene Shepard's stories, and the reason I wrote the book was to show that Gene Shepard's stories are parables. They work on two levels. There's the everyday level of the story. There's the teacher. There are the students. Flick is not there. Where is he? Of course, he's out. He's got his tongue stuck to the pole. And so there's that everyday life going on there, but there's other deeper meaning that Shepard was always trying to work into his stories as a parabolic storyteller. He told parables. When people ask me about this, what do you mean by parables? The only way that I can get it across with some people is to say, well, do you remember that Jesus told parables? Most people say, yeah, he told those parables. Maybe they've heard a sermon or they read it in the Bible, a parable. So Jesus would tell a story about everyday life that had deeper meanings. Often people would say a kind of earthly story with heavenly meaning. Well, I'm reversing that a little bit and saying that Gene Shepard's stories were earthly stories about everyday life that had these deeper meanings. Okay, so there's a parable. So what's going on here? Well, for many of the stories that Gene told, what he did is to take biblical analogies or biblical metaphors. Why? Because in the Western world, the Bible is a primary source of story. I'm not talking about the Bible necessarily as God's Word. That's another whole conversation we can have. What I'm talking about is that when you look for stories that will help you then use those stories from somewhere with everyday stories to interpret everyday stories, one of the greatest sources is the Bible. And so what Shepard is doing here with this story is taking his cue from the Garden of Eden. In the very beginning of the Bible, the Old Testament, people will call it if they're Christian, or let's say the Hebrew Bible if you're Jewish, the very beginning, we have a story about Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve are created by God. They're created very good. They're created to take care of the plants and other things. And then something happens. And God tells them, but don't eat this one fruit. Stay away from that tree. You can eat everything else. In fact, I'm calling you to take care of everything else, but don't eat that one thing. Okay, what happens? They eat. And then God comes into the garden and he asks them, what's going on here? Where are you? Where are you? Now that's, to use a fancy word, that's an epistemological question. It's a question about truth. It's a question about knowledge. It's not just a question about where are you physically. Where are you? It's like saying to a friend, hey, where are you at today? You just went through rough times. Where are you at? What's going on? Or when I was growing up in Chicago, we would say, what's shaking? What's going on? And so God is asking this question, what's going on? What's going on? Where are you? Okay? So now, transport that into the classroom. And there is Miss Shields. She's in a very difficult situation. She wants to know what's going on. Where is Flick? Where is Flick? Flick has disappeared. She's asking them a deep question. She is the God figure in that scene. Now, that scene goes even further. Once it's pointed out to her by Esther Jane in the front row, pointing, remember, kind of hiding it so the kids don't see who's telling her, where Flick is out there. And she runs out and gets Flick and brings him back in the classroom, and now it's another whole scenario. It's continuing the Garden of Eden story here because there are guilty parties. Somebody has eaten the forbidden fruit. Who has done it? And Miss Shields, the God figure in this, is standing up front. She walks down the aisle a little bit, and she looks at Ralphie. She looks at Schwartz. She's got a sense it's the two of them. She even asks who may have done this in a way that's plural, as if it was more than one, and she knows the two. And she first asks Ralphie. Maybe she has got a pretty good clue it's Ralphie. So she asks the question, like God in the Garden of Eden, who did this? What happened? And then she goes forward, and there's this great stuff in there that Shepard wrote about guilt. Yeah, guilt. You know who you are. Now, isn't that a religious-like question? You know, I went to Catholic schools for the first part of my childhood. And boy, oh boy, there was a lot of guilt around there. And once a week, we would get moved off to the area where we would have confession. I forget what grade that started. I think it was 4th grade, maybe. We'd have to go to confession. And man, we're all thinking, what have we done? What have we done? You got to come up with sins. And you got to have something to report to the priest. You know, we all had some sense of guilt. And so there's Mom. I know how some of you feel. You feel guilty for what's happened, don't you? You know. And then she essentially says, you're going to go forward in life feeling this terrible guilt. And you have a chance right now to come forward and confess your guilt. But you're not going to do it, are you? So you know who you are, and you know how you're going to feel, you guilty parties. And she moves on. So what Shepard often did in his storytelling was take biblical themes and then take off some of this specific biblical language, not all of it, like guilt in here, and then he would use that to help make his stories richer, fuller. And he does this there with the whole scene of Flick. Where's Flick? God comes into the Garden of Eden. Where are you? Where are you hiding? You guilty ones. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like a copy of my book, I'll put a link down below. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel there too. And please, if you'd like a personal copy while I still have them, if there's a link down below, you can order a copy and I will sign it. Your friends and family will open the book and see it's signed just for them. In fact, tell me how to sign it. Thanks so much.